Time to eat dinner, everyone. Dinner in the evening. I will learn about real estate investing with Robert and yeah, maybe that's enough because when I finish dinner I will help my girlfriend sell the shop. Hello everyone. Nice to meet you. Where is Ben? Thank you for live, everyone. It's very good. I just finished exercise. My dinner is the same meal in the morning. Maybe it's too big banana. And let the soy. Come on, let's go.
This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Hello, this is Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. To invest. But to be able to do that, to go to here, to get rich, to do that, you've really got to have... I always borrow to invest. One of my favorite books just came out, it was called Fake Money, Fake Teachers, Fake Assets. I use debt to invest. But to be able to do that, to go to here, to get rich, to do that, you've really got to have a lot of financial education. I don't recommend it, but it's the best way to get rich. President Trump, my friend, we wrote 2 books together, and also you guys hate him. A lot of people hate the guy, but he's very smart. He's a capitalist. Obama, socialist, communist. Hillary, crook. So anyway, be very careful right now because I use debt, Trump uses debt. The more debt we use, the less tax we pay. That is why I love real estate. I can use debt and pay no taxes, make a lot of money. So that's really what I teach. I don't recommend it, but for those of you who understand what's called an infinite return, it's the best way to get rich, but you have to have a lot of financial education. So the reason the rich don't pay taxes is because there's 3 types of income. They'll never teach you this in school. The fake teacher will never. Number 1 there's 3 types of income. Okay, number 1 type of income is earned income. That's earned income. It's when you work for money. It's earned. So that earned income shows up here. So these are the guys that pay tax. So when all the guys are screaming tax to rich, well, you can't tax them because they don't have jobs.
That's absolutely
It's kind of funny, isn't it? You go tax to rich. Oh yeah, good
Wow.
luck.
That's absolutely.
Have jobs. They're screaming tax to rich. Well, you can't tax them because they don't have jobs.
That's absolutely.
It's kind of funny, isn't it? You go tax to rich. Oh yeah, good
Wow.
luck. And the second type of income is portfolio income. And portfolio income is from flipping houses where you buy a stock for like $10, you sell it for $20. That's portfolio income. Okay? I don't do $20. From flipping houses where you buy a stock for like $10, you sell it for $20. That's portfolio income. Okay? I don't do that. Trump doesn't do that. So most guys who are flipping houses and all that, buying stocks and flipping to you're getting this type of income. So this income is about 20% today. It's about that here. But the income that the rich work for is called passive. Passive income is also known as cash flow. That's the name of our game. Cash flow. And that income is income that's flowing from here to here. It bypasses taxes. So I know it doesn't sound fair, and it isn't fair. I don't disagree with you. But what's not fair is our schools, which are part of the problem. We'll never explain that. Our school system is so fake. It's more fake than those fake plastic planets. And these teachers, bless their heart, they don't know any of this. And I really want to talk to you about the most important subject for all of us today, rich, young, poor, or old. It's called financial education. And as you know, our school systems teach us nothing about money. Nothing. It's pathetic. They have financial literacy courses today. Well, that's not financial education. It's really pathetic. And what's happening for most people today is, they follow that age-old mantra, go to school, what do you learn about money in school? Nothing. Get a job. Well, jobs are disappearing. Not only that, is that with artificial intelligence and G5 coming, more jobs are going to get wiped out, plus with driverless cars, more jobs are getting wiped out. So why would you go to school to get a job? And then work hard for money, but pay taxes. Taxes are going to keep going up, sports fans. They have to. Somebody's going to pay off this massive mountain of debt stacking up all over the world. And the only way they pay off debt is via taxes. And then they tell you to get out of debt. Oh, God. Debt is money. Please understand me. In 1971, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, money became debt. So the rich know how to use debt to get rich. And that's what I do. My friend Donald Trump, I know some of you hate the guy, more power to you, you know. But we use debt as money. And other guys will tell you get out of debt. Well, you choose. The rich use debt to get rich, and the poor and middle class get wiped out because they're in debt. That's because of the lack of financial education. And I tell you to invest for the long term in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. The key word in there is invest for the long term. Why would you invest for the long term when they're printing trillions of dollars and zero interest rate policy, they're paying you nothing for your money? And you're going to hold for the long term? And you got HFT, high frequency trading? You know, they can trade 1,000 pieces of stock in a second, and you don't have a prayer. You're trading against a machine, a robot. So all this financial advice people are giving out there is a recipe for disaster. Again, this is my message to anybody, including millennials, is where is your head? You know, I know most millennials, they want a high-paying job. They want to be able to pay the rent, eat, and all this stuff. And then you dream of the big house, a nice car, and all that. But that's why 99% of Americans are broke, because their head's on the wrong spot. So when I asked Kim if she would take an accounting course, it was just 2 days. You know, I wanted to see if her head could get into the asset column. That was the difference, wasn't it?
Yeah, and actually,
That's why I love real estate. I can use debt and pay no taxes, make a lot of money. So that's really what I teach. I don't recommend it, but for those of you who understand, it's from flipping houses where you buy a stock for like $10, you sell it for $20. That's portfolio income. Okay? I don't do that. Trump doesn't do that. So most guys who are flipping houses and all that, buying stocks and flipping to you're getting this type of income. So this income is about 20% today. Passive income. Others are going to get wiped out. Plus, with driverless cars, more jobs are getting wiped out. So why would you go to school to get a job and then work hard for money, but pay taxes? Taxes are going to keep going up, sports fans. They have to. Somebody's going to pay off this debt. Bonds, mutual, the second to anybody, including millennials, is where is your head? You know, I know most millennials, they want a high-paying job. They want to be able to pay the rent, eat, and all this stuff. And then you dream of the big house, a nice car, and all that. But that's why 99% of Americans are broke, because their head's on the wrong spot. So when I asked Kim if she would take an accounting course, it was just 2 days. You know, I wanted to see if her head could get into the asset column. That was the difference, wasn't it?
yeah, and actually, it didn't happen right at that moment, but it's.
You fell in love with me?
Of course I did. Of course I did. But this started the journey on investing. This started the journey on assets. But I do remember the moment down the road where, just like everybody else, I was focused on the income column, get a job, get the pay raises. If you're an hourly wage, work more hours or raise your hourly wage. So I was always focused here. And then finally, this is after we'd actually bought some investment properties, the light finally went on, and I'm like, instead of focusing on acquiring income, what if we focus on just acquiring assets, that the assets go into the income
Like
column?
this.
So that was a huge shift in my mindset. And once that shift happened for me, I don't think about the income column anymore. I just think about the asset column.
And that's our game called cash flow.
Yeah.
The first way you understand risk is you look in the mirror. It's who's looking back at you. You're the risk, not the investment. For example, I invest in a lot of real estate. And say, oh, real estate is so risky, it's not to buy ETFs. So you play it safe, but you'll learn more by investing in real estate, right? Because you'll make more mistakes.
Yeah.
So that's the difference there. So it's not real estate that's risky, it's your risk.
Yeah, and sometimes it's ironic because I think about it like, so blindly turning your money away to someone you barely know isn't risky, or let's say, I don't know, maybe just depending on this job where your employer can fire you any day isn't risky either. You know, it makes you think a little, what truly is risky for you?
Yeah.
How do you define it?
And you look at all the pensions of the school teachers, firefighters, all the guys with 401ks, they're all bankrupt because Wall Street stole their money from them. You know? And the Federal Reserve Bank, they're run by PhDs, like my point head. And PhD stands for poor, helpless, and desperate. The Fed has not been right in years. Everybody worships the Federal Reserve Bank. The other day, somebody says, what do you think about artificial intelligence? I said, oh, why are you talking about the Federal Reserve Bank? You know, they're a criminal operation. They're the guys stealing from our pension systems. It's horrible what's going on because we have all these PhDs, poor, helpless, and desperate people who are risk averse. Funny, isn't it? It's really funny. But let me tell you what risk is. So,
Okay, perfect.
so when you go to your banker does not ask you for your report card. So here's the cash flow game, and this is called the financial statement. What makes the cash flow game different from Monopoly, which how my rich dad taught me via Monopoly, is my rich dad also taught me about financial statements. So the cash flow is the only game with a financial statement. So really simply, when you look at a financial statement, there's income, expense, assets, liabilities. There's one more thing in the cash flow game on the financial statement you'll see. It's the most important statement of all. It's called the statement of cash flow. It's off to the side. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur or a capitalist, you have to have one of these. Going to be rich, you have to have one of these. But 99% of all high school students leaving school and college have no idea what this is. You have FICO scores, you know, but you don't know what this is.
No.
So when a banker asks you for your financial statement, they want to see how smart you are here. So let me tell you why school makes students poor. So really simply, it's this. Let's say I have a master's in arts, Master of Arts degree, right?
Yeah.
Or a Bachelor of Arts degree.
Yeah.
Do I learn anything about income?
No.
What about Greek mythology?
Oh, there you go. That's
I learned
very important.
nothing about income. And we wonder why kids leaving school, or young generation, looking for that high-paying job. But now let me ask you this: if you have a deep degree in technology, do you learn anything about assets?
Never.
So you could be a techie and you know nothing about
Yeah.
this. You could be a techie and know nothing about this. You see, when a banker looks at your financial statement, they're looking at the mirror of you. This is a reflection of you. And if you got Jack here and Jack here, then you're not that smart financially. So the reason the cash flow game is such an important game, it teaches you what is important to your banker or for a capitalist or for an entrepreneur, is that an entrepreneur's got to know how to increase their income. And an entrepreneur's got to know how to create assets. If you don't know those two things, you should not be an entrepreneur. You should be an employee. Which is why so many young people coming out of school have massive student loan debt over here, right? But they don't know anything about this and about this here. That's risky.
And we always have to find outside resources to like find this information, learn this information, you know, taking courses here at Rich Dad, learning through your seminars. And so it's really astonishing how something that's supposed to prepare you for the future leaves you with just the most important documents that we're told that we need to have, our resume and your report cards, your transcripts. But in
If
reality,
you're going to be an employee.
exactly. But for entrepreneurship, which is what a lot of people come to us for, this is where you can learn it here, because in the school system you won't.
You see, if you're going to increase your income right over here, you need a real teacher. If you're going to acquire assets, you need real teachers. What is high risk is asking people who are fake teachers, like my calculus teacher and my accounting, you love accounting teachers, don't you?
No, I hate them.
Did your
Worst
accounting
class.
teacher know anything about this?
No, nothing.
Did your accounting teacher know anything about this?
No.
That's risky.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I wrote the book, Fake Money, Fake Teachers, Fake Assets. And what Wall Street is telling you to do is just give your money to them. That's risky. So the reason I say only lazy people use their own money is because it takes much more intelligence to raise capital. And so I've never been able, ever since my rich dad was a little boy, my rich dad forbade me from ever saying I can't afford it. He says, figure out how you can afford it. How can you do something? Figure out how you can do something. So over my lifetime, most of the projects I've started, I've never had anybody. I like not having money because it forces me to think. I get creative. I have to educate myself. I have to talk to rich guys. How'd you do this? How'd you do that? How'd you do that? And what has happened to me, I just turned 72, I've never needed money. Because if I need money, I figure out how to raise it.
With the nation's shift towards wastewater reuse to combat water scarcity, coupled with existing concerns about heavy metals and toxins in our water supply, we must ask, is our drinking water truly safe? Welcome to the Ultra Healthy Now podcast, where your journey to feeling younger, sexier, and more energized begins. Dr. Nicole Srednicki, who specializes in high-performance health, will dive into practical, actionable tips and strategies that can transform your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Join us as we uncover the secrets to living a healthier, happier life, mind, body, and spirit. Because true health, beauty, and happiness start on the inside. In the face of evolving water practices and contaminants, how can we secure pure, safe water for our health and future? Imagine pouring a glass of water, clear and refreshing. But what if that water, essential to our very existence, harbored unseen threats? In 2025, as our nation seeks innovative solutions to water scarcity, are we compromising the purity of our most vital resource? Hello and welcome to Ultra Healthy Now, the weekly podcast where we dive into the journey of maximizing your health potential. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Srednicki, founder of Ultra Healthy Human, where we specialize in high-performance health for high-performance people. With the nation's shift towards wastewater reuse to combat water scarcity, coupled with existing concerns about heavy metals and toxins in our water supply, we must ask, is our drinking water truly safe? Again, I'm going to say this. The nation is shifting towards wastewater reuse. That's disgusting. Consider Sarah, a vibrant entrepreneur juggling the demands of her startup and family. Despite her heroic schedule, she prioritized health, eating organic, exercising, and ensuring her family drank tap water to reduce plastic waste. However, after months of unexplained fatigue and cognitive fog, Tests revealed elevated levels of heavy metals in her system. The culprit? Her home's tap water, contaminated beyond acceptable limits. So what's the issue? In 2025, to address water scarcity and budget constraints, several U.S. cities have initiated wastewater reuse programs, treating sewage water to be repurposed as drinking water. In response to the scarcity, cities like El Paso, Texas are pioneering wastewater purification projects aiming to transform sewage into potable water. Specifically in El Paso, they have embarked on a project to convert 10 million gallons of wastewater into drinking water daily. While this approach offers a solution to dwindling water supplies, it raises concerns about the efficacy of contaminant removal and the long-term potential health implications of consuming reclaimed water. So why is this an issue? Our existing water supplies are already burdened with contaminants. For example, Scottsdale, Arizona, where I live, water contains arsenic levels averaging 3.82 parts per billion, or ppb, significantly higher than the Environmental Working Group, or EWG, their health guideline of 0.004. That is a huge difference. Similarly, hexavalent chromium, a known carcinogen, is present in 3.54 ppb, vastly exceeding the EWG's recommended limit of 0.02. Introducing reclaimed wastewater into the drinking supply could exacerbate this contamination and these contamination issues if not meticulously managed. Most harmful contaminants in drinking water are per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS, dubbed forever chemicals. PFAS are synthetic compounds used in various consumer products. They persist in the environment and human body, leading to potential health risks such as cancer and immune system suppression. Disinfection byproducts. While disinfecting water is crucial to eliminate it can lead to formation of these byproducts like THMs, and exposure to these have been linked to increased risks of bladder and colorectal cancer. Nitrites, commonly originating from agricultural runoff, nitrites in drinking water are associated with cancers and reproductive stress. Runoff, nitrites in drinking water are associated with cancers and reproductive stress. And then there's heavy metals like arsenic and hexavalent chromium, which I already mentioned. These contaminants can infiltrate water supplies through natural deposits or industrial pollution, posing significant health risks, including cancer. And then there's radiological contaminants, elements like radium and uranium, which can leach into water sources, increasing the risk of cancer upon contamination. So the health effects of contaminated drinking water. There are, as I mentioned, cancer risks. Long-term exposure to contaminants like arsenic, hexavalent chromium, and disinfection byproducts have been linked to various cancers, including bladder, colorectal, and skin cancers. Neurological effects. Lead exposure, even at low levels, can cause cognitive impairments, developmental delays in children, and mood disorders. And then there's reproductive issues. Nitrates in drinking water have been associated with reproductive problems, including birth defects and miscarriages.
Miscarried.
So let's look at the government regulations versus health guidelines. The Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, sets legal limits for contaminants in drinking water. However, these standards often lag behind current scientific findings. For instance, the EPA's maximum contaminant level for arsenic is 10 ppb, whereas the Environmental Working Group recommends 0.004, based on more up-to-date health risk assessments. This discrepancy suggests that current legal limits may not adequately protect public health.
Adequately.
So you need to be aware and you need to do your homework. Arguments for and against water reuse. So for water reuse, there's resource conservation, by reusing wastewater. This addresses scarcity, ensuring sustainable water supply for growing populations, and the economic benefit because it would reduce the costs associated with sourcing and transporting fresh water. And then against, obviously, the health risks that we're discussing today. Potential incomplete removal of contaminants can pose significant health risks over time. And then there's the public perception of the yuck factor, which may lead to public resistance against consuming reclaimed water. My personal opinion, while innovative water conservation methods are essential, they must not compromise public health. Rigorous testing, transparent reporting, and robust purification systems are non-negotiables. I think this is disgusting. We know that there's already too much that slips through the cracks with some of the government organizations, and this is a perfect example. They're allowing us to drink dirty water, and it's getting worse. So how do we identify this issue? You can actually get water quality reports from your city. You need to regularly review the local water utilities' consumer confidence reports. And then sensory indicators. Take note if you have unusual tastes, odors, or discoloration in your tap water, which warrant immediate testing. I don't recommend ever drinking tap water because of all of these issues. In my practice, I definitely recommend either using an RO system, or there's many other water filtration systems, or you can even bring in, some people do the containers of water in their house, but you do want to watch out for the plastic. In my clinic, we only serve glass bottles of water to, again, get rid of some of that the exposure from plastic, but also making sure that we're giving clean water to our patients. So these health implications, chronic exposure to these contaminants like lead can lead to neurological issues, developmental delays in children, and increased cancer risks. When I look at patients' blood work, we see some of these. We see the inflammatory markers, we see heavy metals. I'm seeing more and more heavy metal exposure in people's blood. And I think it warrants sometimes, if you only drink bottled water at home, even testing some of those bottled waters to make sure that they are pure. Because these heavy metals can actually accumulate in your body over time, and they will stay in there for years and lead to chronic health issues like Alzheimer's, cancer, and many others. So they actually accumulate in your organs, so it's quite scary if you're not trying to get rid of them. So we need to be proactive. Test your water, regularly test the water. There are a lot of companies out there that do water testing. I think even Home Depot has like a very basic one. And this will allow you to screen for different contaminants, including these heavy metals and toxins. And then personal health monitoring. So you should be, as I always talk about being proactive with your health, look at what's going on internally. We can actually check your heavy metals in your blood. We can look at like recent exposure versus long-term exposure. So there's many ways to test for this, so you can understand and then move accordingly however you need to treat your body. So you can always detoxify. We talk about this on every podcast, but dietary measures, always, incorporating in your diet high antioxidant foods, things that have chelating agents like cilantro or chlorella, lemons, limes, onions, water, all of that are very good natural detoxifiers. And supplements, there are many supplements that you can consider for this. And if you want a list of some of these chelating supplements or even IV, types, you can send us a message if you go to ultrahealthyhuman.com in the contact section and just send us a note, and we can send you a list of these supplements that we recommend to keep, try to chelate some of this stuff out of your body. If you do have like chronic exposure to heavy metals, and that's, as I mentioned, when they start, the metals will start to accumulate in your organs. Sometimes you need to kind of step up the treatment, and sometimes you need to consider doing oral or IV chelation. Chelation is something that will bind these metals and get them out of your body, but you always should do this in a monitored fashion to make sure that your body's chelating these heavy metals out, but also not pulling out other essential nutrients that you need, and also then being able to replenish and monitor what's going on, just to make sure it's safe for you. I do a lot of chelation therapy in my practice at Ultra Healthy Human. It works so well for people. So for people with that chronic exposure, oftentimes, so we would test, we would go through a series of maybe weekly IV chelations, and then we would retest to see where all of their levels are, and we have a great success with this. And so you can also just ignore if heavy metals are in your body, but this can cause irreversible health damage. It can lead to cognitive decline.
Irreversible.
And organ issues. So please don't just ignore it. And some take-home tips for you. So awareness is number one. Be aware of what you're drinking. Get your water tested. Find out from your city what are these levels that are in the drinking water, and then be proactive with regularly detoxifying your body. I mentioned doing a structured detox program. We've talked about the 21-day ultra healthy detox or the 10-day detox, but just on a daily basis doing little things to try to keep your blood clean and get those toxins out. Also, fiber is a great way to help bind some of that, the toxins, and get them out of your body. If you're curious, you can test. You can test what's going on in your body. You can test your blood for heavy metals, and there's other ways to test for heavy metals. They can test it in your hair, in your urine. So there's multiple ways to test for it and then get them out of your body. Also, don't be scared after hearing about this. Make sure you're staying hydrated with a good source of water. So thank you for joining me today on another episode of Ultra Healthy Now. If today's episode sparked your interest in achieving your maximum health potential, or you have questions,
System is set up. Actually, it's kind of the same everywhere we go. Is that people make a paycheck and then they put it in this, into this thing called a bank, let's say. And that's pretty much the way the system is. So, and they also take your money through insurance products or, pensions or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter what word you use. It's your money. It's everyone's money getting put into some kind of financial system. It could be a pension, it could be insurance. It doesn't really matter. But then what happens is all of these people, the bankers, the wealth managers, the pension funds, all the securities that are all over here that are basically taking the money from the masses. They need people to invest it. That's how the system works. So that little quarterly statement that you guys get, that maybe you open, maybe you don't open, so it's invested somewhere. Somebody somewhere is investing that money. So the same thing with the bank. Now, so what traditionally, what the bank calls it is debt, of course, or a mortgage, or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter. It could be credit card debt. It could be auto debt. It could be debt for your home. It could be debt for investment. It could be debt for an airplane. It doesn't really matter. It's just debt. But it comes from you. So what happens is they give you, the bank gives you, let's just be generous and say 1%. Which is actually less than that, as you guys know. But then what they do is the bank, then I go to the bank with my property here, let's say, and I need debt. So then they go, we're going to give you this debt, which is actually your money. So this is why we call it OPM, other people's money. But what they do is that they charge me, let's say 4%. So now the bank is making, let's say 3% on your money. So when you give money to a bank, it's a liability to the bank. It is. You're looking for interest on that money. They're housing your money for you. And then their job is to lend it out. So they give it to guys for businesses, for for autos, all that. That's how the whole system works. And so that's why when you drive down the road, you see the banks have all their names on all these big buildings. This is it. This is how the system works.
If I could show them pictures. Yeah. So you make some money here, you pay your taxes, and let's say you put $100 here as the bank's liability. But on your balance sheet, it's an asset. It always has to balance. That's why balance sheets are everything. So they have, let's say, one of your dollars here in the fractional reserve system. They can ramp it up 10 times, let's say. So your $1 becomes $10. And then Kenny walks in and borrows it, so they now have an asset called Kenny's debt. So it always has to balance. In scientific terms, it's called counterparty. Who's at risk here? So they need Kenny to come in and borrow that money.
Well, they need you too. That's
that's the way the whole system is. So the entire system is predicated, and by the way, I'm borrowing from insurance companies, I'm borrowing from pension groups, I'm, like the retired teachers or firemen or police, they all put their money into pensions, and then those pensions, it's
ไม่มีเลยเธอไม่มีเลยจ้าไม่มีเลยครับโอ้แสดงว่าต้องการด่วนดูฮะนี่ช่วงนี้ฝากเงินหมดแล้วเพราะว่าโอนจ่ายก็นั่นแหละเอาในตู้เติมเงินไปฝากหมดแล้วเธออ๋อมีเหลืออยู่500พอดีเดี๋ยวเอาไปมี500พอดีเดี๋ยวเอาไป
they lend it out again. So what they're always looking for is they're always looking for people to put the money into the system, and then the financial planners, the wealth managers, the money managers, whatever you want to call them, their job is to actually go out and find people like you to lend it, to open businesses, to put up a beauty salon or a style shop or an esthetician business, and that is how the system works. So the money is, or an esthetician business. And that is how the system works. So the money is sitting here, it's OPM or other people's money, and it needs to be lent out. Now, the issue that they have, of course, is you. Do you have the financial capability to pay it back? And that's what Rich Dad really stands for, is, so this system exists whether you do it or not. It doesn't matter to them. So what they're trying to do is take a look at, are you an asset or are you a liability? So when you go into the bank and you can't get a loan, which happens to all of us, for some reason, there is a reason. There is a reason, and typically that reason is me or you. And so what I had to do is I had to learn how to borrow this kind of money and to raise this kind of money to be able to invest it into these things, which are now for me apartment houses. And so I was just telling Robert, I don't think I told Tom yet. So right now we have about 300 million in construction in Arizona, and so we need both debt and equity to do that, because obviously my partner and I, we don't have that sitting in a checking account. No one does, okay? No one. So, so the strategy of being able to go out and find land, buy a master plan, create a master plan, or find some kind of a deal and put it together, this is what the system wants. They want it. They need it. They need to deploy that money. Now, the problem is that as it starts to get returned back, so as I pay back the debt, and as it goes back to here, there's all kinds of fees. So this is why some of you might have quarterly statements that aren't really changing very much, because they might be making a little bit of money, but you got to pay attention to how it's being allocated and the fees, because what happens is it starts at the bank, it goes through various stages of money management before it actually makes its way down to here. So, so the deals that we're doing in Arizona right now, and we are pretty much Texas, Oklahoma, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, and Arizona, primarily Arizona and Texas primarily. So I buy existing properties in Texas. So we own quite a few there. We just this year we bought 1,200 units in Austin and Houston, and using this exact same model. But with new construction, it's very different. Different team, different set of education. It's very different. So I have two different buckets of debt. So I have the bank debt for new construction, but we have more sophisticated institutional or even Fannie or Freddie Mac debt for our existing properties. So what you find is that the debt gets categorized by risk as well, because building something new is a lot riskier for the debt or the bank as they represent you than buying an existing building that already has a tenant in it. So, so you just got to take a look at how debt and equity are priced, and once you start to understand that and learn it, then you can talk the language. But it's honestly, it's just like riding a bike. Once you understand it, it does not change. Literally, it doesn't matter who the banker is, who the money manager is. It all is exactly the same. So while the deals might change, the language around debt and equity and this here is exactly the same from country to country, from state to state, from city to city. And so the game is all about using debt. Here's the cool part. As Tom knows, my partner and I, we haven't paid tax in, I don't exactly know, at least 10 years. And the reason is because what you get when you buy housing is you get what's called depreciation. And so what they allow is they allow 27 and a half years of depreciation on this apartment house. So as an example, let's say this apartment house was $30 million and 2.5 of it was land. So you have to take the land out because they don't allow you to depreciate land. But the 27.5 million that's left, they allow you to depreciate $1 million a year. And why is that important? It's important because this apartment house is producing $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 in cash flow, but you have $1 million of depreciation, so you report a loss. So that's how it works. So this, obviously, we're trying to buy properties at cash flow. So if the property produces, let's say, $700,000 a year, and you have $1 million of depreciation, you actually report legally a $300,000 loss as the partnership. So you've got $700,000 in your pocket, but you report a $300,000 loss. And the reason that they do that is because the government needs housing. They're not good at housing. You guys can we just can tell you, as they've tried it before in all kinds of cities and all over the country, and they're just not good at it. Even other countries have tried it, and they're not good at it. So the housing, at the moment at least, is all done at the private level. So this is why we teach what we teach on the real estate side, because there's a massive need for real estate housing. And we're heading into a very, very, very difficult time for renters. And next year we're projected 7% rent growth. I think the year after that is going to be at least that. So this is not good. This is out of balance. What's supposed to happen is there's supposed to be the right amount of housing for the right amount of people. That's how it's supposed to work. And when that's in balance, it's healthy for everyone. When the government gets involved in that second tier and they start to reduce they start to put regulations and things on the housing, and I'm not saying some of those aren't needed, but when it gets so bad that you can't build, like we're seeing in LA County as an example, and that you see the homelessness go up because of density or whatever else. We can go down the road on this, but the point is that when they start to get involved, the bureaucrats, it drives the price of housing up, which only can drive rent up. And so right now we're in a situation where we have high land costs, high supply chain issue, high construction costs, and high rent, and scarcity. So we have a lot more renters because of the pandemic and all the things that are happening around that. And we're having a massive affordability, not to mention inflation. So all of those things are down the road on the housing. when the government is to work and for the right amount of people is supposed to be this is not good. This is out of balance. After that is going to be at least that projected 7% for renters. But we're heading into before we teach what we teach on the real estate side. Private level is all just not good at it. Even other countries have tried it and they're not good at it. So the housing at the moment at least is all done at the private level. So this is why we teach what we teach on the real estate side, because there's a massive need for real estate housing, and we're heading into a very, very, very difficult time for renters. And next year we're projected 7% rent growth. I think the year after that is going to be at least that. So this is not good. This is out of balance. What's supposed to happen is there's supposed to be the right amount of housing for the right amount of people. That's how it's supposed to work. And when that's in balance, it's healthy for everyone. When the government gets involved in that second tier and they start to reduce they start to put regulations and things on the housing. And I'm not saying some of those aren't needed, but when it gets so bad that you can't build, like we're seeing in LA County as an example, and that you see the homelessness go up because of density or whatever else. We can go down the road on this, but the point is that when they start to get involved, the bureaucrats, it drives the price of housing up, which only can drive rent up. And so right now we're in a situation where we have high land costs, high supply chain issue, high construction costs, and high rent and scarcity. So we have a lot more renters because of the pandemic and all the things that are happening around that. And if we're having a massive affordability, not to mention inflation. So all of those things are happening right now, but we're in the first quarter. We're at the very, very, very beginning of this. So we're going to start to see some massive affordable issues. We're already seeing them. People are going to start next year. People are going to start to move to affordability, and they're going to look for the governors. The governors are going to be how the states are run. They're going to be a very, very big piece of where people are going to go. That's why Texas and Arizona are growing right now, and Florida and Idaho specifically. So all that's happening right now. So the point is, it's a lot of information. There's a massive need for housing. We're going to be in a big affordable issue. This is not rocket science. Once you learn it, it really is not. It's needed, and you can do very, very, very well. You can get lots of cash flow, and you literally can defer your tax if you hold it for a long, long time. Part of the reason why I don't sell is for a long, long time. Part of the reason why I don't sell is because I'll have a depreciation recapture, a capital gain, and all that kind of stuff. So we're very much a buy and hold company. And so everything we've done has been buy and hold.
Tom, you want to add anything?
Sure. So this is worst case. I mean, one thing you haven't shown, Ken, is how the bank's making one thing you haven't shown, Ken, is how the bank's making 4%, but how much are you making? Right. Right. So Ken's got to make more than 4%, otherwise you're screwed, right? Right. So you've got to make more from 4%. But the thing is that you get the depreciation even if the property goes up in value. Wow. Even if the property goes up in value, you still get depreciation, because depreciation is wear and tear. That's what it's meant to be. It's meant to recapture the wear and tear on the building. It's basically, if you actually did it the way it's intended, Kenny would take that $1 million of depreciation every year, he'd put it into a fund, and that fund then, 27 and a half years later, would redo the building, right? Or buy the building. That's the idea, that's the economic idea behind depreciation. The government's idea is, and this started with Ronald Reagan, the government's idea behind depreciation is, let's use this as an incentive to build the housing that needs to be built.
Yeah, one more thing. Kenny operates in the tens of millions. Can it work with a single unit?
It can. We see people who are doing it with $10,000 down, $40,000 of debt, and buying a $50,000 house in Indiana.
Yeah, all the time.
So it's not the size, it's appreciation, depreciation, amortization, debt, management.
Then the next piece is the refinance piece, which is actually the most fun. So, so I'll just give you a quick scenario. I'm going off of memory here. So I bought a building for 19 million. We got 15 million in debt, and we had 4 million in equity. Let's say we got 15 mil. So I bought a building for 19 million. We got 15 million in debt, and we had 4 million in equity, let's say. Now, the bank, what they do is they give you a loan based on the net operating income, or the income minus expenses. So the net operating income when we bought it was about 700K. And so the bank said, okay, we'll give you 400 grand, 700K. So the net operating income when we bought it was about 700K. And so the bank said, okay, we'll give you 400 grand in debt. Now this is the payment. And so this property made about 300K annually. Now, this, of income. So annual. And so this property made about 300K annually. Now, this, of income. So there's a lot behind this, and I'm doing this really quick. But the point is this. This 400K was the payment on the 15 million. That's essentially what it is. this $4 million is equity. That's money that I raised from other people. This $300,000 is the return on the $4 million. So what is that, about an 8 or a 9% return? Okay, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. But what I had on this property, we also had a depreciation of about 500 grand, which showed our loss of 200. So we had 300K of income, 200K of loss. So the partners showed a $200,000 loss, but we were distributing 300K. But what we were really trying to do was fix the property up. So we bought, like I just bought a property in Austin. The owner had it for 17 years. So I'm sure for the first however long, it was in good condition. But when we bought it, it was not in good condition. So same thing here. This property is in Flagstaff that I still own today. It's about not quite 300 units. So I'm like, okay, so when you buy a property that hasn't been well maintained, there are opportunities in there. There are rent lift opportunities. And well maintained, there are opportunities in there. There are rent lift opportunities. All you got to do is, clean it up a little bit, put some love back into it. And the inside, on the outside, whatever it is. Sometimes we do gates on the outside because there's security issues maybe. Sometimes we do a lot of landscapings. We put dog parks in. We just, we put new appliances and new flooring and all that kind of stuff. And that all equates to a number, whatever the number is, but only what the and all that kind of stuff. And that all equates to a number. Whatever the number is, but only what the market will support. So you would never over improve a property. So this property, it had a washer and dryer opportunity. In other words, it had hookups and an actual room, but no machines. So the residents were going down and using the laundry room. So we're like, well, if we buy washers and dryers and stick them in the units, then we're going to be able to charge a little bit more, and it's a convenience for the renter. And so we did that, and we got about $40 there per unit. It took a while because you put them in, and it takes about a year and a half before you get them all in. And then we upgraded the vacants as they turned. And what that did is it raised our net operating income to $1 million. So now that sounds like a lot, but on 200 units, $100 a month with all that stuff, the washers and dryers and the upgrades, is not that much. But times 200 times 12, you can see how the math works. So we're pretty darn close to that. Plus, this was about 3 years later, and it all took a while. But this is a slow project that you just methodically move along and manage. So then we go back to the bank, and I said, okay, I'm now cash flowing, obviously a lot, 600,000, right? But I go back to the bank and I say, hey, I got $1 million now of NOI, because the bank, this is what they lend off of. They say, what's the property producing? What's your business producing? How many sandwiches versus your overhead? What's your net? This is the net. Okay, so the bank says, we think the value of the property is $25 million now, because I was able to grow that, and we're going to give you 20 million in debt. So this is how the game works. So this is what we call a value add opportunity.
Can we add something though? Is as an investor, he does that, I get all my money back.
Yeah, so that's what I want to show you now. So this 20 million pays back the 15 million, obviously. That's out. Pays back the investors their 4 million, and I still have an extra $1 million. This is a cash out refi. That's all it is. So I was able to do it through breathing, through a strategic program of increasing the value of the property, through rent growth, through spending some money. Now, I have no equity at all. So I don't owe investors anything at this point. So I borrowed the 4 million. I paid it back at the end of 3 years. I think it was in the 4th year. Okay, and I still own this building, by the way. So,
But the investors still own it
to
too.
the investors, still own it too, of course, yeah. So now, but of course, the payment goes up, and I think it went up to about 700 or something. I can't remember. I'm going off of memory, because if you borrow more money, your payment goes up. Okay, so now my cash flow is still 300. And my depreciation is still 500, and so on. And so at this point, we have what we call an infinite return. Surfinito. That's what that means. So then fast forward, this market, we got life back in the market. I bought this in 2005. So I've owned this a long time. So I've